two, one.
What is up, everybody? Celebratory beers. Almost Veterans Day, right?
Oh yeah, salute to service.
Yeah, we want to say just a quick thank you to all who served, have served, and continue to serve. Um, Without those people, um, the world wouldn't be where we are today. So we do thank you guys very much. Front Kick Fantasy Podcast. Been a while, hasn't it?
Yes, yes, it's been too long.
Too long, right? So we do want to apologize to the viewers, apologize to the fans, all the people that do watch and tune in to the Front Kick Fantasy Podcast. It's been a little bit of a rough 2 months, probably a month and a half. So as everybody knows, I am in the Air Force, stationed at Shepherd Air Force Base, and I've got a new job, so everything's been kind of hectic with that. I've been working about almost 12-hour shifts every day, and then as we know, Nate has been going back to school, right?
Yeah, and I've got a big long schedule, and on top of that, I've got work. So it's just been um a lot of just time constraints, a lot of priorities that me and you have had to keep in check. And but when we have time to do this, then we're going to do it, and we're going to try to be more consistent as well. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we're still working on it. We're still working on a merch drop. Maybe just in time for a stocking stuffer or something. Maybe we can pack something in the stocking for Front Kick Fantasy crew neck sweatshirt or something like that. But well, let's roll right into it. Nate, go ahead and take us away.
All right. So well, since we've been gone for a little while, we're going to start off by, well, let's see. We left off at the emergency podcast at 279, which means we do have to cover 279 and 280. And both of them were both big shit shows, I'd say, honestly. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that. 279 kind of was. As we left off, we had a bunch of different changes in the main events, and we've had and so after, let's go ahead and reflect on what we feel about 279, and then we can go on to 280. So what do you think about 279, main event?
So some takeaways I got from 279. So Nate Diaz farewell tour in the UFC, on the bigger and better things. So a lot of people might think he's going to box Jake Paul. I would say Jake would
God, I
probably.
hope not.
I'd say Jake Paul would probably. He's probably going to box Andrew Tate, but I think the trilogy for Nate and Connor is the biggest thing to make right now. Obviously, pending a few things this weekend. Maybe a Michael Chandler and Connor match has been talked about at 170. So maybe that can be something that they're planning. But the biggest takeaway from 279 I have is Hamzat Shemaev is main event material, but he is not ready for a main event, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Missed weight. Obviously, we saw that. We talked about that on the emergency podcast. Missed weight. You can't do that in headline events. That is the biggest. I mean, for me and you, we've wrestled our whole lives. I've never missed weight. I wrestled with you for 4 years. You've never missed weight. To my knowledge, neither of us have missed weight. That is half the battle, is making weight. And if you can't make weight in a main event fight against Nate Diaz, then are you going to make weight in a title fight against now the reigning welterweight champion and Leon Edwards? I just don't see it, and I honestly don't see Hamzat making 170 again.
Yeah. Honestly, you've stole the words right out of my mouth. I was really thinking after that, can he actually make welterweight again? And And I don't know if I see it. I think a middleweight would be probably better for him. Although I would like to see that Colby and Kamzat fight. I've said that in the first podcast, and I thought it was gonna happen, but I think talks are kind of low now. But we'll figure that out. So outside of just Kamzat in that event, how did you think? Who did you truly want to win in this Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson fight?
So I wanted Nate to win. Mostly because I wanted that hype to stay there with Connor and Nate. If Nate loses to a Tony Ferguson, who's just coming off of a few, first off that brutal knockout by the one, the only Iron Michael Chandler, right? But coming off of such a brutal knockout like that, if Tony beats Nate, that kind of just washes out everything with the trilogy. So I am glad that Nate won, although it was ugly. Nate had to go and take some breaths in the middle of a fight,
Yeah.
but he did get it done. So that I think that does keep the trilogy open. But mostly, I did want Nate to win. Honestly, it was one of those guys. It's like if whoever wins, I'm down with it because both of these guys have had a hell of a career, and they have a really good resume. So I'm really happy with either one. What about you?
Yeah, no, I said the same. I mean, some of the first UFC fights or pay-per-views that I've went over to my friends' houses for have involved Nate Diaz like in his prime. I remember, I don't remember, I don't think it was like the first ever, but one of the first ones that I remember watching is him and Connor's first fight. And I thought that was just complete. I mean, as everybody else did, complete shock. So, um, so yeah, I mean, he has the resume. He could walk away right now, but will him and Connor fight? We don't know. That's what we have to find out. So moving on, let's go ahead and get into 280, a very, in my opinion, controversial card. Not necessarily on the business aspect, but rather on the judging aspect, the inside, the actual fighting, like around the octagon and in the octagon, not on the business side like 279 was, right? Because we had to make some changes. This time, no changes, but some controversy.
Well, let me stop you right now. I hope you're not talking about Sugar Sean because we got a little black and mild. We're gonna like for Sugar Sean because he is the number one contender in the world. But go ahead, keep on talking.
Well, let's just what I really wanted to talk about before we got into Islam and Oliver and Dillashaw and Aljo. How much does control time truly mean in a fight? Like,
I think
how much does it count for?
I think it depends on the judges. And honestly, I've watched the fight back. I've watched the fight back, and we've talked about this on the podcast. And obviously, you've known this. I've expressed this to you way before the Front Kick Fantasy podcast was a thing. I've been a Sean O'Malley fan since the beginning of 2020. I've made that known since he was on the Contender Series. I was all aboard the Sugar Show, and I still am. I think that he turned one of the best boxers at 135 pounds into a straight up wrestler. I think that wholeheartedly. I also think he won the fight. I really do. I think that obviously Piotr Jan had the control time, right? But if you watch, why was he resorting to control time and takedowns?
And
Because
that's what a lot of coaches tell wrestlers nowadays. When there's a close fight and a ref might make a controversial call. I think this is in all sports. Don't let it get to that point. Jan should have really. I mean, if when I thought that he was going to really win, a lot of people did. And so, but he shouldn't have let it get to that point. You can't make excuses after the fight is over. Even though that Sean literally looked like he had no idea, like he Like when he got his hand raised his name and his name called, I mean, you can look at his face. He was just like looking around, like, really? But does that mean he thought that he lost? No, I don't know. I don't know. But you thought that he actually won, though.
I really do. Yep. And man, I don't know. It's one of those things. I mean, I'm gonna revert back to us wrestling. Obviously, we were scored on a point basis, right? But these
Hmm.
people are scored on points per round, but no live bet, no live odds. Or there's live odds, but there's no live scoring. So really, you don't know who's winning. If you knew who was winning, then Piotr Jan, if he was up in the going into the third round, he would have cruised to a 29-28 victory. You know what I'm saying? So I like the aspect of the
Mystery.
anticipation. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like Piotr Jan has nothing. He can't say, "Oh, this, that, and the other." I'm pretty sure he took to Twitter after the fight and said, "F the judges. Don't take it. Don't let it go to that point.
Hmm.
If you're the number one contender in the world and you're fighting, what was Sean 13, 11, something like that in that range, he was definitely past 10. If you're the number one contender in the world, you shouldn't make it go to that point.
Right.
And
Yeah,
with that,
no.
and with all of that being said, Sean O'Malley is now the number one contender in the world for that belt. Do I think he gets the next title shot? I do. I think that Aljo takes a break, and I think either Aljo takes a break and O'Malley fights Marlon Vera for an interim title
I
fight.
would love, I would
But
love that.
but at the same time, I would love that as an aspect of a Sean O'Malley fan because I do think that Sean was winning that fight before he hurt his leg. But I don't like the aspect of an interim title fight. You don't make an interim title fight for somebody to go on vacation. This
Hmm.
guy signs a contract, so fight out your contract. You just because you have weight and gold on your shoulder doesn't mean you can say, "Hey boss, I'd like to take 6 months to a year off." You
Right.
don't do, right? So the only time that there was an interim title fight was when Piotr Jan beat Corey Sandhagen because of Aljo's neck issues. That is legitimate. You don't make an interim title fight because somebody wants a little bit of vacation. I can see Sean O'Malley facing. I can see it happening, but I don't agree with it. Or I can see Sean O'Malley fighting Aljo for the title. Or I can see Sean waiting it out, Aljo coming back early next year and fighting Henry Cejudo for the title, who I think is undeserving of the title. Yeah, I mean, like Aljo said he said in a press conference, I believe after the fight sometime this week, the division's passing him up. It's passing Cejudo up,
Hmm.
right? So the last person Cejudo beat for the belt was who? Was it Dominic Cruz?
Maybe. And now
Something like.
he's
But then
ranked
look,
like eighth or
but
10th.
now you look at Dominic Cruz and he's going down. He's going all the way down the line. I mean, I
But
don't know.
that's how sports many sports are, you know. Your body wears down after years, and then those young people have to step up. So yeah, I don't know if Henry Cejudo comes back, but that can be a discussion for a whole different, topic of discussion in a later podcast. So we obviously know in the next match, Aljo Dillashaw, okay, dislocated shoulder. There's not much to speak about this. But what I do want to ask is, do you think where does Dillashaw go from here? We already talked about Aljo, he's taking a break, but where does Dillashaw go from here?
I think there's only one right answer, but I'm not sure if they will. If Hunter Campbell and Dana White will make this fight. I think that TJ needs to fight Piotr Jan. And
Okay.
the reason I'm saying this is because you give Piotr Jan, like I said, I didn't remember exactly what he was, 11, 13, something. You give Piotr Jan, you either lose everything or you stay where you're at, right? Because realistically, if Piotr Jan would have won that fight, he would have been in line for the title next. If he loses that fight, he just lost to somebody that was number 11 in the world. what does that show to him?
Right.
So you Dillashaw, somebody that's a little bit older, but granted, he did come off a win of Corey Sandhagen by decision. Jan also beat Corey Sandhagen by decision. Who knows how long Dillashaw is going to be out? But I would love to see that fight to see if Piotr Jan is still. I know for a fact Piotr Jan is still among the best in that division. But is TJ Dillashaw still amongst the best in that in division? Because if he's not, then the trilogy between, or I don't think it's the trilogy, the rematch between Garbrandt and Dillashaw, although it doesn't have very much credibility, can sell pay-per-view numbers.
Hmm. And yeah, you're right. When you bring back the older people, or not older people, my bad, but the legends from the past, right? You sell numbers, and we're on discussion about that, about Dana White bringing back, um, past legends to come and fight these new upcoming fighters, and it just doesn't end well. But now, in this, if you think about it this time, I mean, they're both old. I mean, if you think, I mean, older. Both of these fighters are starting on their decline. So I say that fight should happen. Either not Jan necessarily, but Cody Garbrandt and Dillashaw, maybe just another rematch, right? But if Dillashaw had to fight somebody other than that, in my opinion, yeah, you're right. It'd be Jan. I mean, it's just too close. And with that or Marab, honestly. I mean, Marab's up there. I don't even know what's going to happen by the time he makes. Yeah,
And I
that's
would love to see it. And I would
yeah,
love to see a Piotr Jan and Marab fight. I would
yeah,
love to see that fight. But I don't know. I don't know what they have planned. I don't know what Dana and Hunter Campbell and all them have
right.
planned. I would love to see that fight. I think that you make a very good point with that. And honestly, that slipped my mind, but that does make a lot of sense. Um, so moving on to the main event. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really want to touch much on this. Islam Makhachev, obviously,
New
undisputed
champ.
lightweight champion. Um, Congrats to him. And I didn't want it to go this way, but I saw it going this way. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a. I think they're going to reign supreme. That whole family, obviously, he um, comes from a family of very decorated and very distinguished mixed martial artists. So I could see him being at the top for a very long time. But props to Charles Oliveira. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I do not see him contending for a belt as long as Islam Makhachev is holding on that throne.
Yeah, it hurts to say that. I know that you had to force yourself to say that, as a lot of other UFC fans say the same. So yeah, but to be the best, you got to beat the best, and that's just it. It's a dog eat dog world, isn't it? It hurt to watch the match, to be honest, but I honestly didn't really have a dog in the fight. I mean, I like Oliveira. I think he was legit, right? Um, yeah, and I did like him. And Islam, obviously, if you don't like Khabib, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, you can't like Islam. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, I think the two go hand in hand. I think the two are kind of um, a package deal at this point, and it really hurt when Khabib went 3-0 coaching all of his, all, or it was a 3-0 or 4-0. I don't remember.
It was
It was
something,
something, but
but, um,
dude's
but yeah.
yeah.
One other thing I want to touch on 280, just really brief, and then we'll go on to 281. Bilal Muhammad,
Mm-hmm.
man, I tweeted on behalf of the Front Kick Fantasy Podcast that this fight was going to be something that people need to look at. Everybody was like, okay, this is going to be a snooze fest. Both of these guys are very prolific mixed martial artists, but neither of them really have any finishing touches. They don't really have any of that finishing power.
Mm-hmm.
Give Bilal Muhammad somebody. Give him someone. Give him Hamzat. He wants Hamzat. What
Yeah,
other person at the 170-pound division wants Hamzat Shemaev? That is the easiest fight to make as long as Hamzat Shemaev can get down to that weight.
right.
Give
No,
him.
yeah, I agree. I didn't really know exactly how this fight would play out between him and Sean Brady. A lot of people at this place that I was watching at were kind of hoping for Sean Brady just basically because, oh yeah, he's undefeated. Oh yeah, he's legit. Not anymore. Muhammad is in fact legit. I watched him at that fight night back in when was that? That was back in April or May. Yeah, I think it was
When he
back in
fought
April.
2K, when he fought
Yes,
Tito.
when I watched that fight and I watched this one and dude's legit. Yeah, he needs to go up for some kind of top three contendership because yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. So let's roll us into
Yes.
281. So obviously, I'm very biased this weekend. Big Michael Chandler fan. But before we go into our front kick fantasy picks of the week, just give me your thoughts on 281. What do you think about the card in general as a whole?
Do I think it is as stacked as last time or as 280? Not necessarily. We were really blessed with that. And honestly, this isn't a bad card, though. I really enjoy this card. I think Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier was the fight to make, even though that both of them said, oh, yeah, that's not how you make a fight. You don't just confront me, whatever. Boom. Then the fight happens. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Anyways, um, I think that Whaley does in fact deserve a title shot. I don't know if she just can't beat Rose, but spoiler, it's gonna happen this weekend. Sorry. Anyways, and then moving on. I mean, we've got possibly Izzy's toughest challenge. I mean, you think about it. So so that's what I think about it, right? Overall, I think it's going to be very interesting. Now let's get to the picks. Luke, go ahead.
All right. Well, before I start, I do want to say that these three fights on the card are very good, but I do love the fact that we do get to see Frankie Edgar back in action
Yes,
at MSG in New York.
for his
Love it.
final time.
Also, Dan Hooker, love it.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously usually see a couple of those guys on the same card as Izzy because you do have Allberg, who is a light heavyweight, is on the same team as Izzy. Got Dan Hooker. I believe Brad Riddell is on the card. We got Matt Favola. We got Molly Meatball McCann with the elbows. You know what I mean? So this card in totality is a very good card. So I am very excited to see how this card goes. But picks for me, I'll go ahead and just go all the way down the line. And I'm actually going to be very specific with this. Um, so we'll just do I guess we'll do the whole main card. That's fine.
Okay.
Whole main card. So I believe Dan Hooker's first fight on the main card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've got Dan Hooker winning. I think after losing that fight to Arnold Allen, I think that he deserves this. He needs this, and I think this is exactly what he's going to get. Um, Frankie Edgar. I want to see Frankie win. I really,
Everybody does, man.
and I think he does. I think that Frankie wins, and I think that he lays down the gloves and he calls it a career. I hope that that's what happens because we always see these legends lose and drop the gloves. Why are we losing and dropping the gloves? Let's win a fight. Let's end up on top. Let's drop the gloves. Call it a career. Much deserved, very much deserved for Frankie Edgar. What a UFC legend. Now, as Bruce Buffer would say, it is time for the last three fights, the most exciting fights. I've never been so excited for the last three fights in a while. 280 was awesome, but I knew the outcome. It was one of those things like I wish. Other than O'Malley, I did not think O'Malley would win, but these three fights are a complete toss up, with the exception of the co-main. Give me Michael Chandler by submission I want Michael Chandler by submission. Third round. Zhang Weili by murder. That's all I'm saying. Zhang Weili will murder Carlos Esparza. I think that that's a no-brainer. You look at the pressure. I don't care what Rose and Zhang Weili did back in May, or what Rose and Carlos Esparza, excuse me, did back in May. Zhang Weili will not let that happen for 25 minutes. She
God, I hope
will
not.
put her through hell for 25 minutes before she doesn't get her belt back. Give me Zhang Weili. Championship fight. Oh, Izzy's boring. Izzy's this. Izzy's that. Israel Adesanya is one of the best, one of the most decorated fighters in the UFC. Give me Izzy by knockout round 4. I'm calling it. Izzy knockout round 4.
Damn.
Go ahead, Nate. What you got?
So honestly, all of ours are the same except for one. Except for one. So I think Dan Hooker will win this. I don't really know a lot about um, his opponent, but I don't know. I think Dan Hooker is. I don't know. I for some reason I just have that feeling, right? I just have this feeling, and I really believe that he's going to maybe pull something out of bag. We'll see. We could be wrong. And next fight, same as exactly what you said. I want Frankie to win. I think Frankie will win. Ain't that damn right? That's damn right. I think he will win. Now, match three, the one that we you don't want to hear from me. Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, and I'm like I said, I don't favor fighters over another one. Okay, but I think this is going to turn into a Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler fight. I think this is going to be a punch out, and I think it will get a decision. That is my complete opinion. I know Diamond and both him and Chandler both said, "Oh well, this ain't going to the finish, and I'm going to knock his ass out. I'm going for the finish." Well, we'll see if that happens. I'll believe it when I see it, and that should be with um, everybody. Yeah, I think next fight, co-main, pretty self-explanatory. If Esparza comes out with this win, I don't know, like, and it turns out to be the exact same as her and Rose's fight. Like, what do you say about that? Like, there's not a lot. I just feel like maybe she is that strategic. Maybe she just knows all the loopholes and just gets by a split second, like she did like last time. But I think why Whaley will in fact beat this bitch up. Just plain and simple. So that's my prediction. And lastly, I know Pereira's has beaten Izzy twice in the past, but MMA is not kickboxing. Kickboxing is one of the mixed martial arts in MMA, but Izzy has been in this situation a lot longer, a lot more times than Pereira. Do I want Izzy to win? No, his fans are cancerous. I'm going to be completely honest. But I just think that Izzy's more prepared for this. I think now, do I think it's going to be my knockout? I don't know. I think it will. There will be a lot of stand and bang. I think it will be a shootout. Um, but I don't know who's going to win. I don't know how it's going to be won by, but I do think Izzy is going to win. So that's summing up my 281 predictions. There's my picks.
Real quick, let's bring back a segment. Let's do one fantasy fight before we close it out. But let's do one fantasy fight. I'll let you start first, and then
So
I'll
you
ring
just
us.
put me on the spot, man.
I'll let you start, and then I'll ring us in.
Okay, so I haven't really thought about him a lot, but actually, you know what? Yeah, this is a good segment, but fuck it. I want somebody to fucking fight Francis Ngannou. I'm tired of that motherfucker sitting on his damn ass. Just anybody versus Ngannou, okay? That is my pick. I'm tired of seeing this dude sit on the couch. I mean, I know he's coming off an injury, but I don't give a shit. It has been what is today? The 11th now? Now that it's
A year. January.
midnight. Yeah, I mean, no, it has been too long. It has been what, over a year?
No, it's January will be a year.
Okay, so in January it will be a year. Yeah, no. Get somebody.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Let me throw you this in your face.
Yes,
Jones or Stipe?
Jones. And don't and let's we can compromise about this. I don't know what your feelings are, okay? But I do think Jones has been preparing for this fight much longer than Stipe has. Maybe Stipe is right now, and I bet he is, just as most fighters just trying to stay in shape. But John Jones has been coming after this for a long damn time. So I don't know, but I would probably say John Jones. Now, do I think it's going to be as good as he's making it sound, like by just murder? Probably not. It's probably going to be like him and Dominic Reyes, where it's a super close fight.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So, what are your picks?
So I have two.
Let's hear them.
So I'm gonna start out with y'all. We as we all know, we saw the altercation between Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev. That's awesome, right? Fine and dandy. We got the 145-pound champion, number one pound for pound goat, putting his number one pound for pound ranking on the line against Islam Makhachev. Cool. Fuck all that. Give me Islam versus Benil Dariush. What has Dariush done to not deserve a title shot? Did you see him against Mateusz Gamrot at
Yeah.
UFC 280?
Yep.
Gamrot's his takedown defense. This guy was getting taken down. Next thing you know, he's got a leg lock put in. Gamrot wanted nothing to do with him on the ground. He wanted nothing to do with him on the feet. That was fight of the night for me. I think that Dariush deserves a title shot 100%.
I agree.
100%. Next up, I'm going to stay in the heavyweight division. I think that Jones and Ngannou need to fight. I think that them two need to fight. I think that that's where the money is. You put a Jones and Ngannou and a McGregor versus whoever on a card that breaks the record.
Oh, easily.
And it lines up perfectly. It lines up perfectly. Other than the Rio card, we still have obviously we think that Usman and Edwards are gonna fight in Wembley Stadium in London or whatever. But other than that, we don't really have anything open, or we don't have anything booked. Everything's open, right? We got Perth, Australia. People are saying that Islam wants to go fight Volkanovski in Perth. Cejudo might fight Aljo in Perth. Whatever. I want Stipe Miocic and Tai Tuivasa to fight in Perth, Australia on that fight card.
I mean, that
I
would
get it.
be
I get
crazy.
it. We have Cyril gone, right? We have Cyril gone. We have Curtis Blades. We have this. We have that. Give me Stipe and Tai Tuivasa in Perth, Australia. I want it.
All right. Well, I think he does deserve that, considering he has and fought his opponents in their hometowns and home countries. I do think Ty does deserve a trip or an event in Australia. I agree with that. So Well, we're going to conclude this episode. If you guys are watching this and you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Luke, it's good to be back, man.
It's great
Um,
to be back, man. I missed you. I missed having on the pod.
yes,
This is
man.
one of my highlights. So we're definitely gonna have to do it as soon as we get the availability to do so.
Yes, and Fortnite after this. Yes.
Yes, we'll definitely be hitting up some Fortnite. A couple shotguns if we win, huh? What do you
Oh
say?
yeah. Oh yeah.
No,
All
shotgun the
right.
pine.
Yep. All right, guys. See you
Hey,
later.
thank y'all for joining. We'll see y'all.
Good.